Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today on such short notice. I am pleased to be joined here today by a number of transit supporters, including Dr. Mike Schlosslein from the St. Thomas Health and chairman of the AMP Coalition, and you'll hear from him shortly. Rolf Schultz, who's the president and CEO of the Nashville Chamber and vice chair of the coalition. Both Mike and Rolf have shown tremendous leadership on this issue. I also want to welcome MTA board members Louis Levine, Marion Ott, and Jeff Yarborough, as well as Paul Ballard and some of the key staff at MTA, including the AMP project team. We asked you here because we received great news from Washington today. President Barack Obama released his budget for the next fiscal year, and under the Department of Transportation is a line item to provide funding for the AMP. I want to start by saying thank you to President Obama, Department of Transportation Secretary Anthony Foxx, and the Federal Transit Administration for their vote of confidence in Nashville and in this vital project. We understand that the FTA will release additional details about the projects being funded in the grant programs in the coming hours and days, including the AMP. The line item in the budget released today shows us receiving $27 million in fiscal year 2015. This means we will sign a grant agreement with the FTA in the second half of this year or the first half of next year. And the remaining balance, to get us to the total $75 million we requested for this project, will be appropriated in multiple consecutive fiscal years. This is a typical practice for the FTA. They recognize the money doesn't get spent all at once, and they distribute it in portions to allow more projects to get funding in a single budget. We have to recognize that the federal budget is a lengthy process, and today is just day one of that process. But the Small Starts program has a good track record with Congress, and so we are very optimistic about the road ahead. The significance of this news is that it validates that the AMP is the right project on the right corridor to start Nashville and Middle Tennessee region on a path to having a robust mass transit system that makes moving around our city easier for everyone, with or without a car. The FTA, above any entity, scrutinizes transportation projects and knows how to determine whether or not a project is feasible and whether or not it will work. They are the experts. Today's announcement is a major milestone and shows that the FTA recognizes the AMP as a needed transportation solution in Nashville. And most importantly, it has put us on track to receive the necessary monetary resources to move this project forward. $75 million is the largest sum of federal funds Nashville and Davidson County has ever received for a single public infrastructure project. These are taxpayer dollars that Nashvillians and others send to Washington that could have gone to the transit project in another city, but we're bringing them back home to work for us. From here, the MTA project team will continue its diligent work on the final design and engineering of the AMP. We started this process 5 years ago with a study to determine the best transit solution for Nashville's densest corridor. Fast forward 5 years, and MTA has held a total of 126 community meetings and forums, engaging and informing well over 10,000 Nashvillians during the process. Most recently, the project team held a series of community input workshops in January and early February, where more than 1,500 people turned out to work directly with our engineering team on a final design, and we're far from done. This work continues with ongoing small group meetings with property and business owners along the route. This type of direct participation by those most affected by the AMP's construction is exactly what's needed to ensure the project's final design is right for Nashville. And let me be clear, we will get this right. There have been a number of legitimate questions raised about how this project will affect traffic and pedestrian access along the route. And then there's also been some misinformation spread around. And let me clear up a couple points today. Emergency vehicles will be allowed to use the dedicated travel lane. MTA continues to work with the Metropolitan Police Department and Metro Fire to determine the best and most efficient way to do this. Let me be clear on this. The AMP route, the dedicated lane, will actually be a public safety enhancement. If you have ever traveled on West End or parts of East Nashville at rush hour, and if you ever stop to think how emergency vehicle would get through that traffic in the case of a fire or a medical emergency, now there will be a way. This is a step forward for public safety. Second, the design is not set in stone. Where there are issues and concerns, we're working on them. And we want to hear from community members as we do this. And let me stress, we want to hear from community members who agree with us and those who disagree with us. The project team is proactively following up with those who raised concerns during the most recent rounds of community meetings. As I said, we will get this right. We will have a project that is good for Nashville, good for this corridor, and good for everyone who travels it, whether by foot, by bus, or by car. The project team's work on final design and engineering will continue over the next year, and they are committed to sharing their progress with the community at large at regular intervals. The next question is, where do we stand with local and state funding? When the time is right, and when we have a large enough portion of the final design done to update the public and the Metro Council on how we will address community concerns related to engineering and construction, we will move forward with a proposal for the local funding portion of the AMP's total cost. We have sufficient capacity to fund the AMP the same way we fund other infrastructure improvements throughout Davidson County, through capital spending dollars. And when you consider the major contribution the federal government is providing to this project, $75 million, the remaining balance of the project cost is very much in line with the number of investments we make as a city to ensure a high quality of life, including school buildings, parks, roads, and sidewalks. As for the state, we are not asking them to include this in their budget this year, but our engineering team is meeting and working with TDOT engineers on a regular basis, and that work will continue. It is important to remember this is not just an investment in one transit project on one corridor. We are making an investment, and the federal government is making an investment in the future of mass transit in Nashville and in our entire region. The AMP is the project that will get us started on a path where transit is a bigger part of more people's lives every day. Middle Tennessee is growing. We are expected to have 1 million new residents, more residents in this area by 2035. The Nashville region will be roughly the size of the Denver region today. A future without mass transit is a future very different than what we know today. Traffic congestion will be significantly worse. Individual quality of life and our economy will suffer without transit solutions. Not just because we will be buried in gridlock, but because many businesses that offer the high quality jobs we need for our growing population won't even consider relocating or expanding into a region without mass transit solutions. Mike can speak to the importance of transit from an employer perspective, and I'm sure he will. As we all well know by now, planning transit projects take time, which is why we need to start with the AMP and to move forward with it now. It is urgent. The AMP will be the first line of a mass transit system throughout Davidson County in Middle Tennessee that looks much different from the transit options we offer today. It will be quicker, more convenient, and it will provide a real alternative to using the car everywhere we go, whether riders choose to use it for their daily commute or on occasion to run errands, go to restaurants, or entertainment. The people using the AMP will be people who would otherwise be adding to our traffic congestion by using their car. And that's the type of transformation we need with mass transit to ensure our city and region's success long term. President Kennedy once said, "Things don't happen, things are made to happen." Our city's future is our choosing. Even the choice to do nothing to solve our transportation issues is an active decision that we will have to live with the consequences of in the future. The good news is that when Nashville comes to a critical point as a city, where we have to choose between a road forward and a road that takes us backward. We have a history of choosing the road forward. We need to choose the road forward once again. I appreciate everyone who came out today. This is a moment for celebration, and we will celebrate. But then we will quickly get back to work. There is a lot of work to be done to make the AMP the world-class transit solution we know it will be for Nashville. I appreciate everyone's commitment to this project. The people standing here today are true believers. They get it, and I want to thank them for their support. The time, effort, and resources they are putting into seeing this project come to fruition are very real. Chief among them are Mike Schlossine, head of St. Thomas, an important and growing healthcare provider right here in Nashville, with 2 major facilities along the AMP route. Now I'd like to invite Mike to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. This is a day to celebrate an important milestone. And the AMP Coalition consists of many diverse organizations and people. There's a group of us that meet every Friday. Thanks to all of you, many of them are sitting here or standing here today, in helping us educate the community about the AMP. Particularly want to thank Ralph, the co-chair, and Debbie Dale Mason, who's provided so much staff support. They've been tireless in their efforts to educate Nashvillians about this project. And I also want to congratulate the mayor and his team, to the team at the MTA. Marvelous technical people, understand this. I got an email from a supporter of St. Thomas who said, "You don't know anything about transit. Why are you doing this?" And I said, "Well, you know, you're right. I don't know anything about transit, but I can rely on the experts, and I can also rely on the fact that if we do nothing, we go backwards." So thanks to them for their role in moving the project forward. Learning that the city is in line to receive $75 million from the federal government to provide funding for the AMP, with the first $27 million coming in the next fiscal year, is a huge vote of confidence and great news for our city. This was a competitive application. We're very proud of Nashville qualifying for the maximum amount of the grant. So we're here to celebrate, and then, as the mayor said, roll up our sleeves. Because our coalition understands that there's plenty of work still to be done. We've been out in the community, meeting with businesses, speaking at community meetings, going door to door. We've met with thousands of Nashvillians. And what they're telling us is that Nashville needs a long-term mass transit strategy. That's 70 to 80% of our Davidson County neighbors. The more information we share about the AMP, the more facts that they receive, the more they support this project. And let me emphasize, this is not a single corridor solution. This is to be the strategic spine of a regional transportation system. I kept coming to work today. I counted, I think, 7 trains. Nashville is growing, and people come here as tourists to work or to play, and we must have a way for them to get here from Rutherford County and from Clarksville and from the airport. But we can't just bring them and dump them off at 4th and Broadway. We need first to build this strategic spine along the most congested corridor, and that's what we're here to do. To give tourists and conventioners a prime experience, to attract young workers to our community, and to help the poor and vulnerable get affordable transit. There's a lot of work to do, but the momentum for the AMP is growing. Today's news is a major boost for this effort. I remarked that 50 years ago, citizens supported unified city-county government. That was not an easy thing to do, but it changed the way Nashville prospered. And if you look at cities who didn't adopt city-county government, many are dying at their center. So Nashville has a history of people standing behind things that will launch the community forward yet again, and we're pleased that the AMP is on track to be one of those. And I hope that 50 years from now, people will look back at us and have the same feeling that we do about those pioneers 50 years ago. Now, we have so many people that have volunteered to help and support with the YAMP, and you can go on the website and Twitter and Facebook and wherever you want to look and find petitions and counts of people who have become engaged. But there are some who stand out, and one who's standing next to me today. So I'd like to introduce Miss Amy Stevens.
Thank you, Mike. I'm here today because I've been a transit rider for over 5 years. I commuted from East Nashville to the Vanderbilt area every day. Riding the bus enabled me not to have to own a car for over 4 years, and I recently accepted a position in an area where transit is not yet available, so I'm looking forward to a time when I can ride transit no matter where I work in Nashville. Also, I had the opportunity to use transit to commute to work, to school, shopping, entertainment, and didn't have to worry about the expense of driving or the worry or the traffic. The convenience and affordability of transit is vital for all Nashville residents to have as an option whether they have access to a vehicle or not. And it's important for our students traveling to the schools and universities in our area. So I look forward to the day when I can ride transit no matter where I work or live, and that day is now closer. This is an exciting day for our city. Today we can see a clear picture of what the first leg of regional transit in our area will look like. And as Nashville continues to grow, there are more people who feel comfortable using mass transit, and that's a great thing for my neighbors, my family, and myself. Imagine the possibilities that an expanding transit system, including the YAMP, will provide for both Nashvillians and those who visit our wonderful city. Thank you.